I'm sharing all the things. Let's hide OBS. We'll just leave it at this view all the time. Let's try to hide Zoom. Okay. Let's get out my phone and go to the YouTube stream and verify that we've got audio and video both running through it. Let's see, YouTube, where are you? YouTube. Utah Ross Live. It's got the totally wrong title on it. I'll fix the title after we're done with today. Testing, testing, testing. Yeah, it's totally working. Awesome. Okay, so. Okay.
Your flashlight's on.
Oh, thank you. I would have run out of battery. Appreciate that.
I noticed that, but I didn't think to tell you.
Could someone just yell out there, hey, we're starting the Rust meetup if anyone wants to join.
Hey, y'all.
All right. I'll just wait till a couple people wander in maybe, and then we'll get started officially. Okay. So we are streaming. We're live.
Somebody say again. Nobody say you're welcome to it.
That's probably mine.
What's up here? Okey-dokey. Ooh, we got a good crowd today.
We're just all eating pizza.
Awesome. Pizza's the best. Although I have to admit that my favorite food is pasta.
Yeah.
But pizza's right up there.
Which pasta?
Personally, I really like spaghetti. Like just
Straight
really,
spaghetti?
Just
No meatballs?
al dente. Meatballs are nice for like variety, but like for me it's all about like the sauce and the cheese
Straight spaghetti.
versus the
Straight spaghetti.
Yeah, I don't my kids will just do spaghetti and parmesan.
Yeah.
There's like no sauce. And I'm just like, what? It's like tragic. Like you need to do Alfredo
Yeah.
or a nice, tomato paste and I like the saltier sauces, like not like Prego or something where it's like super sugary.
Oh yeah, it is.
I just sugar and pasta just feels like a betrayal. Why would you do such a thing? What you need is like fresh basil in your pasta. Pesto. Pesto's all.
You know, in South America, they consider, well, some countries consider just mayonnaise to be a pasta topping.
Oh my god.
You just
I
take
saw
the
that
raw
once in
noodles.
Russia. Also, corn on pizza. That was wrong.
I guess mayonnaise isn't a huge leap. I mean, we have
I mean,
pasta
I
salad.
like mayonnaise, but I just don't think it should be
Maybe.
heated. I just.
Yeah, who's eating it?
Yeah.
Who's
No,
eating
it's
it?
Wrong.
Where did you
It's
see that?
Wrong.
Oh gosh, like putting it
Anyway,
in.
okay, sorry. Well, back on top. Okay, welcome everyone to our Rust meetup today. We are going to build a game from scratch. So actually, let me show you what we're going to build. So I'm going to run DOSBox. This is a game written in assembly in 1984 by Dan Baker, who was working at, oh shoot, I forgot. It was either WordPerfect or Novell in Provo in 1984. I actually lived in Orem in 1984, but I was not old enough to know him then. Luckily, he was at the start of his career because he was still around when I reached out last fall. I actually met with him. We went out to lunch, talked with him about it. I asked him, hey, is it okay if I recreate the game as part of one of my courses? So he said, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do whatever you want. You have my permission, and it's totally good. So it's like, oh, this is super cool. It's a super fun conversation. Since he was at the start of his career, he was still working. He's been tinkering with games ever since. Right now, he's making some games in JavaScript just for fun. I don't think like any major hits or anything. They're all just personal projects. But hey, let's see what it looks like. So in DOSBox, we've got to mount a drive here to, where did I put it?
Can you make the font a little bigger? Or can you zoom
That's a
in?
great question. I believe I can. Let's see. How about, no, not that. Is it that? Okay, that's not right. There is a way. We'll find a way. Somebody look it up. Somebody Google DOSBox and like zooming or wait. What if I drag it?
Is it not draggable?
Not working. Dragon's not working. That's not working. There is definitely a way. I just don't know what the way is. So if someone could find that out, we'll do it. In the meantime, I'll go to C here and see. I've got some old DOS and it's actually a COM file, beast.com, and it is 19,200 bytes, all handwritten assembly. Yeah, we're gonna add a couple wave files for our sound effects today, because I'm not gonna program them one tone at a time by oscillating a speaker. And one of those sound effects, I'm sure, will be bigger than this entire binary. All right, did anybody find the how to make it bigger thing?
Do you have a config file?
Do I have a config file? I probably do not, because I just installed this on this machine today.
Yeah, you have to
Well, can you just zoom in the screen? Isn't it like on Mac, just like two?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably just.
From accessibility.
Command scroll is not working in this version. That's used to work.
It's like an accessibility system preferences. Just like that.
Okay. System settings. Accessibility. Keyboard. Oh yeah, it's turned up. And then they changed it to, let's see. Oh, that's one.
Control.
Oh, control.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm used to it being
Nice.
So I'm used to what I'm used to. There we go.
Much better.
Okay. Still, it would be better if we could actually just make it bigger so we don't have to keep doing this. But, yeah. Okay, so this is the game. Let's see if we can try to get it about the right place. So it has this field up here. And this is all ASCII, right? Dang, I gotta be real careful not to get that cursor. Sorry. Okay, so it's got this yellow border, and below the border it's got some metadata about the game. It tells us, hey, push space to play, so we'll have to do that. We are this little guy, this little double arrow guy. That is us, and we need to do control function F11 or something, and we need to ramp down the cost. This was made for the 8086, so very, very, very slow processor. So we're going to slow it down to somewhere around 150 cycles. That's about what it was like when I played on my 8086.
Can I interrupt for technical concern? Does anybody have either a USB-C charger or a M1 charger?
Let's see, USB-C charging cord. I actually
Not the cord, the charger itself.
Oh, the brick.
The brick,
Oh.
the charging brick. Because I left both of mine at home.
I may.
You need laptop size or?
This is clearly USB.
Oh.
Like this.
I need
For laptop?
AJ, like this.
Probably, yes. Yes, Anker?
Okay. We take care of our.
Oh.
Oh, you
meetup.
read it.
Yes.
Yes.
Exit meetup.
No, this is
next
right.
door.
Thank you.
Okay.
Give this back to you.
Thanks.
All right. So the yellow boxes are impenetrable walls. You can't move through them. The shaded blocks are movable. They're also walls, but they're movable. You can push them. In fact, in certain game modes, you can also pull them. But we're not going to deal with pull. And then the H's are beasts. They are the monsters. They are the thing that is trying to eat us. In fact, if we run into it, it eats us. We die. And then we respawn somewhere randomly, which is happened to be right next to it. It's a little scary. But anyway, you can squish the beasts. You can also, in some game modes, trap them and they will explode if they can't move anywhere after a while. So anyway, you can move in the 8 cardinal directions. So you can actually push things up that way. There has to be a block right behind the beast in order to be able to squish them. Like I can't push them, push against nothing. It just doesn't. There's nothing to squish them against, right? So that's the basics of the game. There's some extras in other game modes, but that's what we're going to be dealing with. We're going to make our yellow blocks that you can't go through. We're going to make our shaded blocks that you can push around. We're going to randomly generate a map. We're going to make it so you can move your guy around, so you can push blocks, so there's beasts, so they chase you, and so you can squish them. Assuming we can get that far in, almost 2 hours. That's a lot of speed. It's got metadata like scoring and stuff, but we're not going to worry a whole bunch about that. There are two sound effects we're going to do. We're going to do the squishing sound. So that's sort of like a chirp, sort of like a bloop. Let's do it again. Come on, get over here. Come get me. Come and get me. There we go. So there's that sound we got to replicate, right? And then we got the, oh crap, I got eaten sound, which is, so we got and something like that. So let's go and zoom back out here. And in the old DOS games, they always used function keys because those are so convenient back on the old keyboards. On Mac, they are not.
And then you're gonna tell us to put it on the App Store?
Well, I actually asked Dan Baker, like, what if I like took it further and I like remade it and I tried to sell it? He's like, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, okay. So like, sometimes I get this, ooh, I recreated it with graphics and Vivint, and then I think, wait, am I like those Dwarf Fortress guys who are making UIs for ASCII things? And do I really think anyone's gonna buy it? I mean, I don't know. But it's fun to think about sometimes. So I'll just sort of leave that up. Let's see. Let's get, what are we doing? We're doing sound effects. So Audacity. Open. Allow. Okay, now we got 3 apps using the microphone.
Wow.
If this doesn't crash, oh, no. Okay.
You need some wave files real quick.
Well, I actually made this already, so we can steal them if we have to. I'm gonna try just one more time, just for fun, because you know, sometimes you do the same thing and you get different results. Who said the systems were same? Okay, and then yeah. So let's see. We got like a shh, blink. Yeah, we can laugh too.
Remember the gun sound? Like pew pew pew.
Exactly. That's how I got the gun sound too. Okay, so there we go. So let's copy this. Gotta do it down here now.
Yep.
Copy that. Copy, new, paste, export. Oh, we don't have anywhere to export it to. We better get started here. All right. Let's make this bigger. We'll like get rid of prompts and stuff. In my Rust folder, or my like Rust projects folder. So we'll go cargo, new, which is called beast. And then I'm just gonna use VS Code. So beast, bing. Alright, now we've got this beast. Let's make this bigger for everyone so we can see it. Is that big enough? Should I, is it too big? Can I go down a little bit?
Go down a little bit.
Down one? Okay. And then I'm gonna do something like here as well. What do we want to do? Well, now we got a folder, so we're gonna make an assets folder, just for good organization's sake. Now I can come back here and Command E is not export. Export as wave. Which one was this? This is the right? So
Type that
it's
out.
die. It's
Blah.
die.wave. So we'll go to, where's my Rust stuff? Nathan, Rust. Good. We just made beast, put in assets, we got die. Okay, and then we'll go back and grab the other guy, and he was squish, I think. Copy that, paste, export. And same place, squish. Okay, so now we got our sound files. So we should be able to be done with Audacity for tonight. And we'll double check it. Hopefully they work because I already closed. Okay, die and squish. There we go. We got our, we're like halfway done already, right? That's like half the battle. Okay, so we got a main, we're definitely gonna need a librs. Let's see, okay, so some logistics that I prepared ahead of time. The old DOS ANSI terminal screens were 80 by 25. So in our lib.res, let's go pub const screen columns, and that's right, that's exactly what we want. Thank you, Copilot.
Wow. I knew it.
Wow. That's
taking
exactly what I was gonna do.
Is it taking what you've already typed before?
Well, I'm sure there's a couple bajillion people who have made the, 80 columns and 25 rows things. Or maybe it's stealing what I had before. I don't know. I don't know.
You have the microphone enabled.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
that's kind of
What?
spooky, but that's not exactly, that's not at all. I'm turning you off though.
Print line.
I know, right? Well,
Print line.
I just want to see what it does. Keep going.
Take it away, Copilot.
Whatever you want.
This lesson brought to you by Copilot.
Okay, I'm back in control. Okay, so the point I was making here is even though the screen is 80 columns and 25, I don't know if you noticed, but they used two characters next to each other so that it would be more square, because the actual ANSI stuff is very rectangular. So we are going to make our game in a logical game space, but then we're going to project it out to our screen, which has its own sort of screen space. So I'm going to make some other constants, we'll call them probably const, gaming columns, and also a usize. And that's just going to be 40, is half of it. And then the same thing of const game rows is a usize, and that's going to be 25, because the height's the same, it's just the width that's different logically. So now we've got our constants we can use anywhere we need to do the math, right? So, yay! Now I'm going to make a module, I'll call it a game module, and then we'll go make it. And then in the game module, we're going to make a game script. This is going to have all the data and all the logic. I'm going to do sort of good or at least not terrible Rust design by not putting a ton of stuff in main. Right? So over in main, we're going to be okay, let's use my game. Okay, explicitly create. Not create.
I don't know if you're
I haven't named anything. Okay, or beast, because we named it beast. So use beast game module. Okay. So here, what we want to do is just something simple. So we'll let a mutable game be a game new, and then we're going to call game run, and that's going to do our loop, and that's it. We're done with main. So let's go make that work. So over here, let's go, okay, we'll go import game, give it a hub fun new that returns a build yourself or do game. We're okay, we'll give you a game. Here you go. And then we go hub fun run, and right now we're just gonna be okay, it worked. And that should be enough to get us a cargo run, and what do we do?
You didn't do anything in main.
Did we do anything in main?
I think that you need to have it be have a self argument for run.
Oh, thank you.
That makes sense.
We need to make run method. You are exactly right. But and let's just do mutable. Oh, the other mutable stuff. There we go. Compiling.
Got a lot to compile.
Why is it taking
Lines
me?
and
I should plug
lines.
my laptop in, so we're in higher power mode or something. Wait for it. I really should plug the laptop in when I'm doing presentations. I get so used to Apple Silicon where I've gotten used to just oh, I just never plug it in unless I'm sitting at my desk doing actual work. It worked! Hurrah! So, that's good. And we'll plug this guy in. So we don't suddenly lose power at some point. Okie dokie. So far so good. So, let's see. What else we want to do? Let's get some dependencies. So I ran through and did a prototype of this already, so we're sort of retreading some ground I've gone over. So I know that I need cross term. Cross term we're going to use for, why am I doing it in here? I do it out here nowadays. Cross term we're going to use to actually display the terminal, low level. cargo add. I made a Rusty text UI library because I keep doing these kind of things, and I was really sick of like rewriting the whole low-level cross-term loop over and over. So I was like, let's just package it up a little nicely. And I have a Rusty audio library that just makes it really easy to play sound files. And I have a Rusty time crate that just makes it simple to make little timers that you pump yourself, deltas. And we're definitely going to need some random numbers. This is a game after all. And I don't think we have to do cross-term directly. Let's try that out. Okay, so that gives us sort of our dependencies. Might as well go cargo run over here and just like let it build a bajillion things. No, well, 89 new things. All right, what else do we need to do? Okay, I'm going to go cheat. Let's see, do I have it open? Don't. And I'm going to copy out the Unicode characters instead of like laboriously getting them. Let's see down here, paste, research. Go grab out these characters. Okay. So, where's that back in now? Got all our dependencies compiled. So here's a bunch of comments that have like the actual ASCII stuff. Now we're not going to get this far and deal with those elements of the game, but here's like the ASCII characters for the yellow block, and the ASCII characters for the shaded block, and for the beast, and for the player. And here's their Unicode equivalents if you want to do it with Unicode equivalents instead. So like, yay, now we have them. And then, what should we do next? How about we start making it so we can actually display something on the screen? So if we go back to our game,
So I have a question.
yeah,
So then, like, obviously, like the different Unicode's gonna look different on each computer, right?
yeah, depending on the font.
That's cool. It's like, yeah, it might be a little weird or something.
Mhm. But most fonts won't actually have this Unicode, so on most systems it'll fall back to the system equivalent. So it'll actually look pretty similar in most places,
Oh.
at least on if you're on the same platform. Like
Or
most
it'll be a
Windows
Chinese
terminals
characters.
will show up this way. Stuff. So let's see. Okay, so we need to store. Let's make sure our audio works. Let's get our audio. So our audio is going to be a Rusty audio manager. And then our game is going to need our audio to be audio, and then that should be good enough. And then we should be able to go audio. So the way the audio player works is it sort of just has this audio manager, and you just tell it like, here's some sound files and like what I want you to refer to them as, and then I can just ask them to play it later. So I wanted to add assets, wave, and we want to call it, let's see, the name and then the path. Okay, we want to call it die, and then there's the path. And then it needs to be mutable for it to do that. And then we're going to do the same thing for swish. And then just for fun and run, we can be like self.audio.play. I don't know, squish. No, yeah, the other one was more fun. Die was more fun. And then we'll say self.audio. Wait, that'll just block until all sounds that are currently playing are done. And then we'll get out. So now we don't have to print anymore. Alright, okay, so that's how we play audio. Just somewhere else, when we're doing stuff, we just call an audio play, and we do stuff. Okay, so we got that. Yes, question?
Does audio.play block on the main thread?
No, this audio manager does all audio in background threads.
I see. So that's why you had to do the wait.
It actually makes a certain number of channels, and then it'll actually round robin through the channels and play on separate channels so that you can have concurrent sounds. Why is Zoom
Cool.
popping up? Do we have someone, did someone comment or something, or is Zoom just trying to upsell me? I do not know the answer. I don't see anything in Zoom chat.
I think somebody joined.
Did someone join or something? That's fine.
Oh, and they left.
Welcome. All right. Is this been up here though?
Are you muted?
Am I muted? This is a great question.
There's a mute symbol there.
Oh, sorry. Have I been silent on the Zoom? Sorry, person on Zoom. Sound is now on the Zoom. I didn't check that. I checked the YouTube, but not Zoom. Thanks for noticing. Okay,
Where's the code for this again?
the code.
Yeah.
I haven't actually published it yet
Okay.
because I haven't actually published it to my course. So,
Okay.
but like I can upload the code we do today when we're done.
Okay.
You thought last version of it. So yeah.
What happens if you just press play and then without the blocking wait?
Then it will start playing in the thread, or at least it will attempt to, but since our execution runs off the end of the main thread, the
just
process will exit, which will kill all threads. So you might get, a millisecond of audio before it exits, but it cuts it off as soon as the process exits. Is there another question?
You mentioned that the audio has channels and so you could play with multiple sounds simultaneously. But is there any way to make sure that you could make sure that two sounds are played simultaneously, just in case the channels are folded, so it's put in a queue, or if you want two sounds?
You don't have any control over it with this audio library that I wrote. With the underlying library, you could absolutely do that. With Rodeo, that's the name of the actual sound library that Rusty Audio uses. The whole point of Rusty Audio is make the simplest possible interface that makes it simple to do sounds and you don't have to think about it. And in fact, we've seen almost the entire API for Rusty Audio. There is something else. It's like a stop or a pause or something.
Is it just rodeo on or on Crates.io?
Rodeo. Literally
Is it spelled differently?
Spelling, no? R-O-D-I-O.
IO, that's why I see.
Yeah, rodeo is spelled with an E.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I totally got thrown. I'm so terrible at spelling.
Spelled with a Y.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. Sorry for leading you all astray on this one. Let's see, where were we? Should I move this full screen just a little bit extra? That did not help at all. Okay. What are we doing next? Let's get something on the screen. So we're gonna make a screen. That's gonna be from Rusty Text UI's screen. It's gonna do the similar thing over here. So let's see that. Does it need to be mutable? What did I do on the other one? Screen. I just went screen, and then screen new. And then what we need to tell it is the columns and the rows. So the columns and the rows, and what was the other thing? Oh yeah, whether or not you're in debug mode. So screen columns, screen rows. Did they import both those for me? I don't think I did that one. There we go. And no, we're not in debug mode. We need to get rid of this sidebar. And probably this too. All right, now I got a little bit of real estate. So now we've got a screen. Let's do something with it in our run, shall we? Make up our basic loop here. So the screen is a cross term. It's an abstraction over cross terms. So that's also going to be how we access our keyboard input. So our keyboard input and our screen output. So we need to make a loop out here. Here's going to be our main loop.
Could you go over a quick overview of the features of crossterm?
Crossterm is just a terminal library, so it handles all the things that a terminal emulator could. So all your input, it handles mouse, it handles keyboard, and then all your output. So colors, text, positioning on the screen. You can batch up all the changes, which Rusty Text batch your changes and like do stuff carefully, then it actually gets really slow even on modern hardware because you're like redrawing the entire screen every time, which gets really intensive. Yeah, does it answer the question?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
All right, so we want a loop here. This is gonna be, let's annotate this. This is gonna be our outer loop. And what do we wanna do? We want to, man, there's so much, sorry. I should have prepped
I know that feeling
the
so well.
intro, so like easing into it better. Yeah, I haven't got that far in my planning. Okay, so we've got this self.screen, and it has a draw command. And what it takes is, so it takes a column, a row, and the characters to draw, and where the characters implement vec care. So that is, I implemented that trait for like string and character and vector, character, and like a whole bunch of stuff just for convenience. So you can pass it a whole bunch of different things. It'll just be like, okay, whatever, you gave me something that I can figure out how to draw. So like we can be like, okay, column one. Now the other thing about this is that like screen space is sort of upside down. So and it's also one based. So it starts at 1, 1, right? Column 1, 1. I think, is that true or am I lying? I can't remember. It's either true or I'm lying. And then as you go down, the rows go up. So then it goes row 1 is at the top, and the row 25 will be down at the bottom. But then of course your columns just go across like normal. So let's see, if we do like 1 and then screen rows -1, like you remember how that it had that metadata under the playing area? That's what I'm gonna put right here. So I'm gonna put like, hey, if you wanna play, this is what you do, right? I'm gonna say, okay, space is what we're gonna push to play. You're gonna sort of emulate the game somewhat. And then we gotta give it some color. So we're gonna give it color. What color do we want to do? Let's do gray. So yeah, let's change that with a use, so I don't see all that stuff. Okay, so I just use the IDE's thing to put that up here, so we don't have to see that all online. Okay, so now we're drawing something out, and then if we put this out here, then for a short time we can see it. The other thing that the other thing that the Rusty Text UI does for you is it uses cross-term to set the terminal into alternate mode. So like if you ever run Vim or Emacs or any like fancy terminal application, you'll notice that like, oh, it completely replaces the screen, but then when you exit, you're back to your original screen. That's called the alternate screen in the terminal. And so Rusty Text UI automatically sets that up for you too. So we should be able to go over here, and you know what, maybe it'd be easier if we just switch back and forth to a terminal since we're so zoomed in. And we just go, run. Okay, so we entered the alternate screen, which was blank because we didn't draw anything. Well, almost blank. Did we have the little? I'm not seeing the. Do we have 25 rows on here? I'm not sure what the size of this terminal is. Tell me the size somewhere.
You don't have like a
But-
border.
Set it to 5 and see what happens.
Oh, I never called draw. Not draw. Render. There's a call to like flush everything to the screen. Let's do that. Self screen dot flip. That's right. It's double buffered, so you got to flip the buffer. So the thing you drew into is now showing up on the screen. So like we're gonna do that every loop. We do all our drawing, and then we flip once, so that we're basically just operating on memory, but only render the screen once per frame. So boom.
So we have a buffered screen in memory.
There it is. Space play down at the bottom. See it? Space display. Okay, so we got this just big enough. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get some input going on or something. Well, we gotta have some. Don't need. So let's go get a player. So let's see. We'll go make a sure I did it some more thoughtful, optimized way in my other prototype. Alright, we've gotta get going. So let's put the player somewhere. Okay, so we've got this loop, and when we're looping, we wanna go through the key events. So we're gonna go over here and say, okay, for event in self screen get key events, which returns a vector of key events that have occurred this frame, and then we're gonna match on the key events code. Doesn't look like it's working. What did I do wrong?
The get key events method?
That would be okay. Match on the event code, and then there's, you know, a couple possible codes. It's actually not that bad. But like, okay, so which ones do we care about? We care about escape. We're gonna use escape to exit. And then other than that, it's mostly just the characters, which is like all the letters, right? So get rid of this up to, there's escape. There's character, and then escape. Okay, and otherwise we're just not gonna do anything if we press an arrow key. Okay, so escape, that's our break, right? So now, instead of like immediately exiting, we're only gonna exit if we press escape. Otherwise, we're just gonna sit in our screen. And then if we press a caret, we can do something, and we just won't press it yet. Man, I did something wrong. Yeah, what did I do wrong this time? Non-exhaustive patterns, I thought we exhausted it with this.
Does that need to be parentheses instead of brackets? Last one.
Hasn't needed to in the past. Oh, it needed a comma. No, it didn't need a comma. It just needed to
didn't
save.
the file, yeah.
Okay. Whatever. I want to see what's going on here. Reachable state, huh? Is it?
Yeah,
It's
you-
outside the loop.
Because we're not under that.
You're not breaking out of it.
We gotta break out of the outer loop. There we go. Boom. That looks nicer, doesn't it? Let's try it. Alright, go run. We're in our game screen. We need to press space to play, but if we do, we'll actually crash. So let's press escape instead. Okay, so there's sort of our scaffolding, right? You see this starting to shape up. All right, let's print our player. So like every time through this loop, we're going to draw our player. So self, screen, draw. Now where are we going to draw the player? Well, we got to keep track of it somewhere. We can either keep track of it in the game, or we can keep track of it in the player. For tonight, it doesn't really matter, so I'll stick it in the player. So let's see, we got a column. Or should we do X and Y or column and row?
X and Y?
Okay, we got an X and Y button. X size, Y size. So there we go. And now we need to make a player. So we'll go outside loop, let player equals player. Oh, it's not going to auto do it for me. Is that because I didn't click that, so we didn't know where to get it from? So, all right, and we'll start them out. I don't know, somewhere arbitrary. 5 and 10. Okay, and then every time through the loop, we will draw him at player.x, player.y, and player.repr. And did I not make them all public? Is that what it's?
It's not a method, it's a static function.
Should be a method. All right. Refer. Boom. Now what's wrong? Still
Any
something.
color?
Color. Thank you. What color is the player? I think he's light blue, right? Light blue. Where are you, blue? There we go. That'll work.
Normal blue is fine.
That will be sufficient. All right. Let's try looking at our player. Boom. We have a player. some character, I don't know, C. I don't usually like single letter variable names, but. Okay, so then we gotta do our, match on the character and, generate using Copilot. What's wrong with you? Well, yeah, I know it's not a trade. I just wanna know why you want autocomplete for me.
What is
You want it to
C?
print every character?
I actually did want it to print. But I guess that's every Unicode code point, so that's probably why they don't. do
That's
it.
like all, yeah.
Okay, fine.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
With this loop, is it gonna cause like a memory issue, or are you like, because it's just looping at what rate? Like, it's just like as fast as the computer can.
Yeah, right now it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I
Fast.
leaked memory, it would definitely cause a memory issue. But I'm not really leaking any memory.
Oh, okay. I'm just.
But it'll definitely run one core real hot.
It will what?
Run a core, a CPU core,
Yeah.
really hot. So like we can add, in fact, we probably should add like a little, like in the loop, like a standard thread sleep duration from milliseconds 1. So we sleep a millisecond. Now we'll only run it a maximum of 1,000 times a second, which isn't actually that much compared to, I think I was doing something like 500,000 times a second when I checked. Like, oh, that's a lot. Okay.
So talking memory, so I'm assuming that screen owns the memory of the double buffer,
Yeah.
and then
It actually, it literally swaps them. It just has two buffers,
oh okay.
and then it changes which one the draw actually writes into.
So there's only ever two
It
screens
doesn't
worth
allocate.
of memory being on the heap at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both owned by screen.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's actually pretty efficient. at
Yeah.
least compared to something I would write.
Yeah, better than like allocating a new screen buffer and then dropping it.
Yeah, I guess I could kind of do it like that. I don't know. It seems like a long time ago. All right, we need to move left. So, player X
Which direction? The X positive direction.
left.
X positive is to the right. Right. Left is
Okay,
negative.
and then anything else, ignore. Okay, so we should be able to move left. Did you see the works? Bum. Hey, watch this. Boom! It crashed. You give it bad input and it's like, wait a minute. Okay, so anyway,
So get key events only counts as like when it's released, when the key is released, not continuously when it's being loaded.
so this is a cross term. The underlying library is a terminal emulator library, and it does not have it does not give me, I don't know if it has access to, it does not give me any raw keyboard status. It only gets, a character has been set. It's like you're typing in a
Yeah.
terminal, right?
Yeah.
In fact, you'll literally see, if we hold the key down, it'll do 1, and then start doing it literally has the delay, and then
Same
do
breed.
stuff,
Ah.
settings, like it's governed by what it's receiving as a terminal library. So it's got, pros and cons. That can be nice if you want to do dealing with type. For arcade game, it's nicer to know that, a key's just been pressed down and it's still down. Or I just want to know what's down right now because I want to keep moving. Like I don't care about the edge, I just want to know, is it down right now? And you have to keep track of it yourself in this if you want to get that kind of level.
Actually, there's like no way to know really,
And there really is no way to know because there's no
because you're just getting the feed.
event. There's only like you got an A. You don't know if it's actually still pressed unless you figure out I can tell that the fastest delay is this, and I'll watch and see if it happens again. It didn't. It must not be pressed, but that's janky.
I've noticed that in apps though, like when it's like it's lagging or something, and you click and it doesn't do anything because it's like it knows that just appeared randomly and like it's been laggy or something. Like I'm really impressed with some of the software I've seen where it's like it actually actually handled that well.
Yep, yep. All right, so let's see. W is up, right? And for me, it's well. Okay, see, I don't do QWERTY. So
Oh.
for me, it's actually. I think comma. I'm not sure comma comes through as a character.
Like Dvorak?
This,
Anyway.
just do HJKNL.
Yeah.
I could do HJK now. Which one's which? J's up and K's down.
That's right.
So it should be J. This would be Y.
No,
Up
J is down.
J's down.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
C. Oh, I did K, not J. That's why I was pushing J. Yeah, crash. Alright, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna cheat. Let's go grab some of the code from the other side. Let's see, in my game, in my run. Where's run?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're not gonna get this far. There's the render, there's a separate render to call, there's the update, there's the run. Let's see. So there's the setup run, and then here's the actual game run, right there. That's what I want. This has got, it's got the combination of QWERTY and Dvorak.
Combination.
Yeah, combination. I also did things like I made the abstraction for all the directions as an enum, and then I made functions that interpreted things, and like, in fact, we can walk through it if we want to later, but just like, okay. For key event in self screen, we didn't put out far enough. That's why it's freaking out. Okay, and escape's got break the outer loop. Okay, that'll work. Got that. And then it says move player. It's going up is
Negative Y.
layer dot y minus 1, and then up and to the right is layer dot x plus equals 1, and layer dot y minus equals 1, right? And to the right, am I doing that right?
Mhm.
Why is it not still not happy. Why not? What did I do wrong?
I
Oh,
think
you
that you're
imported
using-
different care.
Got the wrong care? Not ASCII care? What care is it? I know, it's a key code care. Code care.
Hmm.
Why are you not finding key code? Still not finding. Weird. Fine. What? Still not happy?
Up is not bound to all the prize, but not fine.
It's not bound in all habits. Always just complaining about this stuff not working. Right. Player x plus 1. Still not happy.
Did you need to also use key code up, right, down, left? Because they're not cares. Like, import it from the namespace key code.
Yeah. Good point.
Are you sure that care is not pronounced Giphy?
I believe it's pronounced Yif.
Alright, down right. Lie down.
The slog.
This is where I would turn on Copilot.
Alright, Copilot, you gonna fix it for me?
Do your thing.
We need to go down.
Hey.
It worked. Okay, down left. Can you hear me? This is. Down left. Down.
Oh, yes, it is. Never mind.
Okay, wow.
So spooky.
Yeah, that's it.
Up left.
Beautiful.
Crazy, what's wrong with this one? Oh. Look, Copilot messed up.
Copilot's just
Semicolons.
copying you.
Doesn't.
Oh my god.
Okay. Fun stuff. Should we see if we can move them around? That's not the right.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love to taunt a non-technical person. They're like, "What's the big deal?" I'm like,
You're like,
really
I'm just like,
cool.
whoa! Oh my gosh! That's crazy! Yeah, I'm
Like-
like you didn't do anything.
Like,
Oh, here on top of play.
That's
Like, what am I missing?
So this is the nice thing about having like the rusty text UI on top of Crosstream, like handling all these other things for us about redrawing the screen and stuff. It's like, yay, works, yay, it's nice. Let's escape. Boom.
wow.
Woo! We need some blocks, huh? Okay, we got an hour. So we could probably get blocks working and being able to push them, but I doubt we can also get the beasts implemented and have them moving. So we could either try to do that, you just like keep going down like the manually making it route, which is totally okay if you wanna go that direction. Or I could walk through the other prototype that actually is semi-complete. Votes. You wanna keep going with the raw implementation? Walk through the pretty complete implementation. Walking through, okay, glad I asked. So, okay, so if we go into my beast research, this is what it looks like. Okay, so I've like emulated that whole bottom row. You've noticed that the time, the counter's running. This is just like really close to the DOS layout of everything. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it other than just like copying it. I did change a little bit of a couple things, like the level is just a number which is set to 0. I don't have any levels yet. But in the DOS thing, the levels are like number and a letter. And like they have meanings because you choose a level and it just like sets all the settings for you. It's just like, okay, and I didn't like decipher what that all meant.
How are the levels determined? Like, is it just generated randomly? Or
In this prototype or in the
Yes.
DOS?
Both.
So in the DOS, I asked Dan Baker, I'm like, how did you generate this level? Because I spent, no joke, 3 days trying to reverse engineer how this level was generated. Because I noticed that as I did it over and over, it was the exact same pattern shifted around. And when I actually slowed down the DOSBox things to like 10 cycles per second and watched it draw, and it actually drew the screen twice fully and then 2/3 of the screen a third time. And I asked Dan Baker, like, what is this complicated algorithm? He's like, oh, I was just trying to do random stuff, but this is without a random number generator in assembly, right? So it's like, so I went and like if you launch the actual DOS game, it has a bunch of names on it. He's like, this guy taught me how to do to make a pseudo-random number generator using prime numbers. It was like 7 and 13, because like they were dealing with like bytes for their random number generator. So like basically he's got this 255 random on and off bits, and he just cycles through it, and if the bit is on, he puts down a block, and if the bit is off, he doesn't, and then he just goes row by row, and he keeps going over the screen until he hits whatever 2 2/3 of the screen happens to be. He thought he was going over the screen once, like when I talked to him. He's like, I don't remember how I did. I thought I just did random numbers once, but he actually goes and like it redraws and draws over it and draws some more. And so anyway, I tried to emulate that for a while. I spent many hours, and then I ended up just being like, oh my gosh. After I talked to him, it's like, he just tried to do random, so I just did random. I just did a random Boolean and just went through it.
Is there, do you have the repo to that we could look up, that's in the, that we could see?
I don't yet,
Okay.
but I can post the code we got so far tonight, and then as soon as I get like the version finalized, where I'm actually going to publish it to my course, I'll upload that too.
Cool.
And of course, you're welcome to see that. So yeah.
Do you have to do anything to the randomness to make it cluster well, or?
No, actually,
It
I was
actually
surprised. I was like, am I gonna have to? Because like what he ended up with his little pseudo-random number generator with 7 and 13 had these really cool patterns, and it actually just ends up clumping. Like you do it over and over, and it just does some interesting patterns.
Is it just 50-50, or is it a different?
I'm literally just doing a random Boolean that's 50-50.
Because it seems like there's a large chunks of black.
Doesn't it? Yeah, it's like, would you expect there to be like 15 in a row that are the same, and then another row that's like similar, but
Random does not mean a normal distribution.
yeah, interesting, huh? It's like literally that's just, I'm just going through it row by row, just doing a random Boolean.
Yeah,
But it seems like it's more common to have black.
Yeah, it
Like,
seems like there's a lot more black.
More black than.
Okay, well I may be lying. I may have tweaked it. I did this all like 6 or 7 or 8 months ago, and then I got distracted by some massive life events, and then I'm presenting today. So let's go see what the reality is, shall we? So let's put this, we can just present mode, presentation mode. Okay, let's go find it. Well, random. So there's also 10 solid blocks. Those are literally just random coordinates. I made a random generator for the coordinates.
But what are the yellow things again?
The yellow things. So those are the solid walls. So if we go back over here and go again,
Okay.
notice these 10 blocks are in a random place every time.
And then there's only like 4 beasts.
Yep. And then there's 4 random
Okay.
beasts. Because that's what the vanilla starting level has.
So you're splitting up between walls, beasts, and the movable wall.
Oh, and I never showed you, like, you get space, it actually does the flashing, it like pops you in there. If I go you die, and you respawn. You can actually push the blocks and it works. You can do,
Well,
like,
there's no limit to your strength. You can just push.
there is no limit until you hit the wall. And then you can't push the wall. Now the actual game has a mode where you can crush blocks against something. So that's an interesting mode. It also has a mode where the beasts can push blocks, and in that mode they can squish you, which is really freaking annoying.
So what's the objective? I've never played this game. Is it like to kill the beasts?
The objective is just to kill all the beasts, not
The
die.
objective is to get the top score that causes a crash.
Yeah, and you get points for every beast you crush. And then in some modes, there's a bunch of eggs that start around, and if you surround the eggs, then they will die and not hatch. And if you don't, then they hatch into a super beast, which is faster and more aggressive and can push blocks. There's a mode where if you run into a wall, you die. There's a mode where you can pull blocks as well. If you hold space and then move to the direction, it'll pull a block behind you.
So what's the reasoning for hitting a wall makes you die?
It's poison walls. It was really common in ASCII games. If you ever played Snipes of the same era, oh, awesome well, there's one other thing. There's also a mode where if you surround a beast and make it so he can't move, so like what I was doing around here with this guy, you get him completely like immobilized, then he'll start a timer, and when the timer runs out, he explodes into 5 other beasts of lesser quality. So the mode has super beasts basically that can push things, or not push things, but they're aggressive, but then they explode into these lesser beasts. Yeah, anyway, you got the timer going, you got the life thingy, you got, I didn't get so far as scoring.
Yeah, I
Did
just.
you record these sound effects yourself?
How'd you know?
I was here when you did the pew pew.
And you can actually lose.
I just looked it up and they have
Like
the
an
original
emoji?
source code
Emoji,
for
that's good.
Wolfenstein, the DOS one, on
Nice.
like the original source code.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you could get the Doom source code too.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the assets are not available.
You know, he's
Oh,
using
the
music
assets
from
are
Rob
not?
Zombie for super.
No, you have to provide your own assets for Doom
Interesting.
Interesting.
because of
Let's
copyright.
see, so let's go walk through it, shall we?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So let's see, what's a good order to walk? I guess we could show you that, hey, look, main is the same. We make a game, we call run. Let's go look at the game, shall we? Let's see. Go to definition. So, game, this is, no, this is the wrong one. Where is the other one? Oh, it's in presentation mode, which means it's full screen somewhere. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so, game. So game has a whole bunch of stuff, right? It's got the audio manager, it's got a screen, it's got a board. So board is the logical game, right? And then screen is the physical screen. And then in this one I chose to keep track of where everything is like inside the game. So the player doesn't know where he is, the game knows where he is. And then we got beasts, and then we got some timer stuff. We got your number live and your score, and a spawn timer so you can respawn, and a news message. And then we make a new game, we just set all the stuff up. Once again, player spawns. 1 second. See, where's our board? Board new. So we should go look at board new and see if we can find out what I did with the random stuff. Okay, so board new. I'm looking through all the squares and doing solid black border. So I go around, I place all the blocks. And then here we go. Oh no, see, I lied. It wasn't that. I did do a ratio. So 1/4 of them are the shaded blocks. That's why we have so many more spaces. But I still remember just thinking like, I thought I would have to do something special to get like nice groupings. But I didn't. I just used this ratio and it's like, oh,
I got a
delete
22
that.
on the ACT. Nothing gets past me for math.
Brave of you to admit. Okay.
So what does it look like if you just switch it to like 1/2?
What's that?
What does it look like if you switch it to 1/2?
Let's go look. Doo-doo. Bing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of blocks. And when you can't squish them, that's like really, and I can't pull them.
It's harder, right?
Yeah, it's like
So wait, when you say one, is this is just 50-50, right?
Yeah, this is one.
Yep.
Because you don't
Is
actually
it
have,
50/50
you
or
don't,
is it
if you,
1/3?
that's the default.
Ratio
right?
was 1 to 2.
1 to 2, which would be 1/3, not 1 of 2.
No, it's
I'm pretty
it's
sure
a
that's
fraction.
It's
One out of one. It's
why did the Zoom cut off?
Because no one else was in there.
We were so
We're
willing
boring.
to convince
What?
ourselves that 50% was not
It's
50%.
like because of idle time. You've just been sitting there doing nothing.
It seems like it's
Quit
not-
wasting my cycles.
Bing, 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 bing. Alright. That was weird. Can I do no, I wanna hide things.
You left your Zoom, shut down your computer.
Alright, well.
This is
You go sideways through the walls, like, or like diagonal through
Yeah.
the walls.
Yeah, you can do diagonal movement.
'Cause there's no wall there.
The beasts.
But it also pushes diagonal.
there's a
Yep. You can also push diagonal.
there's an infinitely
I
small
felt pretty pretty proud about
Corner.
the pushing algorithm.
Just
That was pretty cool.
That you just.
Let's go look at the pushing algorithm. That was actually really fun.
Curious about that.
So,
Yeah, I'm curious about the pushing code.
yeah, let's go look at it.
Because you're also making it stop at the immovable walls, right? As well as the edge of the board.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Push, 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 push. Okay, here we go.
Ah.
Whoa, wrong button. Trying to get rid of that.
So originally there were
Alright.
1 and 4 were a movable wall.
Yeah, and then we switched it to.
Okay, so here's our push blocks logic. Okay? So
So what is self?
self here
The
is game.
Game. Okay.
So it's got access to like, it's basically my Uber struct. It's got everything in it, right? Okay, so like I've got a coordinate struct that abstracts the x and the y, or the columns and the rows. And here I'm making a new vector called coords. And this vector is to use for the logic for pushing. So what I actually do is to simplify the logic, I take coordinates and put them into this vector, and then I look at them. So when I try to push blocks in a direction, I say, okay, I'm going to make a new vector and put my player's coordinate, and then I'm going to go in that direction that he's trying to push, and I'm going to look and see what block is there. And as long as I see shaded blocks, I'm going to grab their coordinate and add it to the vector. So what I've got is a vector of my position, and then all of the shaded blocks that are in a row, because I'm trying to push something, right? And then when I run out of shaded blocks, that's where the magic happens. Say, okay, well, when I run off a shaded block into a solid wall, can't push. It's over, bail out, right? So that's how I just like make it so you can't push something. Now, if it is an empty space, then I take, right, let me put it right here, see this. I put them in here. Here's like I recorded it so I could go and relearn it if I needed to. So if you have player and then block, 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 empty space, right? If you look at that as just, I take those out and put them in their own little vector. If I want to push the blocks, that's the same as you can do just a couple swaps. You can say, okay, well, I'll swap my player in the first shaded block, and then I'll swap that shaded block with the empty block, and it's done. Like since the blocks are all fungible and the empty spaces are all fungible, like they're all equivalent, like there's no special things about them, you can actually just do a couple swaps, and it does the thing. So that's how all the logic happens, is I sort of line this stuff up and say, okay, how many blocks do I have? Okay, I've got them all, I've collected all the coordinates. Now this last one, oh, it's a space? Okay, I'll do a couple swaps. Oh, it's a beast. Okay, that's special. Well, either I can squish him or he's gonna block me if there's not, depending on what's behind him. So if there's a beast, then I keep going one more block, and if it's a solid block or a shaded block, then I do a couple swaps to squish the beast.
Out of curiosity, why do you need to keep the whole vector of coordinates that you've looked at? If you're only doing swaps at the beginning and the end, or possibly
Well,
n
I'm
minus
using
one.
the coordinates in the vector to then go into my my vector of vectors that represents my board position and take the pieces and swap them out of their vectors.
Yeah, so you have that chords vector that you put. You put the starting location in, and you said you add everything you look at to it.
Right.
But if you're only ever modifying the thing next to your player and the thing at the end, why do you need to keep all the blocks in the middle in a separate vector?
You might not need to. You might be able to optimize it more.
Because you could make a vector that just looks for a space in that direction, and then that's the vector.
I mean, you don't even need a vector. You just need to keep some references to what we're
Yeah.
currently
And
looking
you
at,
just-
what the direction
and you
is.
just
look
like
at the
fill-
next one. Then if you find a beast, you keep track of where that is, and then look at the next one and swap. Because you only ever need the first and the last, unless you find a beast, in which case it's first, last, and n minus one.
Yeah, maybe you could.
Wait, so if it's a beast, you push the beast in
If
No.
what's past
You
the
either
end-
squish him or he blocks you.
What if there's two beasts in a row behind your?
They block.
They block.
It's gotta be backed up by a solid or shaded block.
Okay.
And then we'll squish him.
So you'd have to write it different if, for example, maybe there was a fifth block that was like a, I don't know, maybe like a purple wall, which is the same as the green ones, but just a different color. You would have to just translate the entire vector, right? Because the pieces aren't necessarily swappable.
Yeah, like the swapping logic would have to change.
That's true.
Yep. Yeah, and this is all very, very specific to the setup. Yeah. And
This feels like a.
I felt really proud about this because this was like my third implementation. You should have seen my first one. It was like 400 lines. It was terrible. It's like I felt really happy when I got to this one. I was like, yeah, I'm sure it could be optimized more, but I was like, this literally does what I could, my conceptual model. Like it does what I modeled in my head.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's definitely more optimal than
Lines,
actually shifting all of the blocks one at a time
Yeah.
until they're all done.
Yeah.
It's just so sad that you don't have like a million by million screen to show off the constant time swap.
Who says I will remake this in Vivint and have a
Right.
scrollable million by million screen?
You're pushing like millions of blocks at once and still doing a constant time swap.
I'm actually really curious, like, what could I do, how could I recreate this in Vivint and like keep some of the fun that I liked growing up? Like, I actually liked the corner aspect.
Thank
was
you.
like really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like the ability to like, oh, okay, they can go through corners, I can go through corners. What does that mean? You know, and like making their little.
It means that you're really skinny.
I spent hours and hours as a kid. You know, I played this as a 4-year-old, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8. You know, and when you're that little, it's just like, ooh, I can move blocks and make shapes. Like it was my Minecraft, right?
Jonathan Blow is making a Suckaban, which is kind of just like this, but he's doing it in 3D, where you just move blocks around and like
Oh, yeah.
solve puzzles. And so this is what I'm like kind of translating it to, where it's like, this would be the 2D aspect of it.
Yeah.
You should do it in
I'm a little bit
first
younger.
person 3D.
There you go.
It's a little scary. I like H's better than U's.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit younger than you, so
Copy
I
and
didn't
paste
do the
the
DOS
piece.
version, but the Windows 95 version with
It's
the
like
mouse and
a
keys.
like a 2D sprite.
Oh yeah.
Like a style where he's like.
I'm pretty sure it shipped with Windows 95, but it was the
Is
same
it really
concept
similar?
with cats running around and you had to trap the cats. It wasn't about squishing them, you just had to trap them.
Ah, right.
And you were trying to get the
Good
cheese,
kids.
you had to move the blocks around to get to the cheese as the mouse
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
Same kind of thing, just a slightly newer version.
Yeah. Any other part of this that you want to go over?
So
Anything
so you say you have the two vectors, right? And then like
Yeah.
one of them just represents like what entity that thing is, right? And then the other one just the position of that like thing.
So in the pushing logic, there's a vector that just stores the coordinates.
Right. And then you say you match it up. So like go down a little. There's a comment that's like P and
Yeah,
So,
like
yeah,
he's the
P-
player.
B, B, B.
Mhm.
So when you have to match it up, do they kind of like lose their uniqueness? Like you're just saying like, all right, a player right here. I'm not sure if the same player, but the player has moved here. Might have been a different one. The block has moved here.
Yeah,
Again,
this logic treats them all as fungible. So if
Okay.
you added a second player, you'd have to come re-examine all this logic to see if it would even work,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I see the pathfinding for the beasts?
Sure.
They
That is an
seek you,
interesting
right?
one. They do.
That's a
They
good point.
do. So, and I did not implement
A
A
star.
star or anything like that. It's much simpler than that.
Do they even
I
have
was
a
kind of
star?
wondering the same thing, like it felt a
Did
little
they
passive
back then? I
as
don't know.
beasts.
I think it's from like 70s, honestly.
When was
They
A
weren't
star?
like pursuing.
I bet Dijkstra invented it.
I mean, like,
Yeah, I
it's
think it is.
complicated, and only when
Dude's
you
old, right?
I think it was like an A
swear,
without
they
the star
recognize
beforehand.
it's smelly, and then they change the
It's like
That was
better
A
A.
before star.
Then
Something
they lose interest because they no longer see you or smell
I mean,
you.
A star.
Did you see the crying emoji?
World War Z and the zombies are just like.
Yeah, that's the crying emoji when you die.
Okay.
I think that's a really fun way to like,
Yeah.
because this was
Or
made
you
with
go, like,
ASCII,
really, like,
you know,
legit,
so it's
you're
like,
Ah,
oh, here's like
stir
what
fry
you have
you
in
will love.
Unicode
Alright.
today.
If I were to
Beast
like make
movement.
this skin, I'd just replace everything with it.
Everything
Okay.
has emojis.
Yeah.
So first of all, I keep track of, did the beast eat the player? I said that is false, because they're all gonna move. Maybe they eat the player, right? And I loop through each of the beasts. and they each have their own spawn timer. Or, let's see. The beasts all just sit around while the player's spawning. So if the player's spawning, we just don't move them. We don't even tick their timers or anything. And then we go through and we tick the beast's timer and see if it's time for him to move. Because the beasts each move on to timer. Let's see what else. And then if it is time to move, we set a new timer, and they actually, every time they move, it's a slightly different amount of time that they wait to move. So they sort of stagger and move at different intervals. And then, all right, so there's two modes. Am I wandering or am I seeking, right? And this is, I don't know, let's just go through it. So I say, okay, if I'm not wandering around randomly, because that's one of the modes, then I'm seeking. So then I go, and I wrote a little distance to function that will take the distance between two things. So I say if the distance to the player is less than or equal to 6 blocks away, then the player's in sight and we move toward him if we can. So then I get the direction that is towards the player, and then I get the potentially 3 directions. So like, let's say the beast is directly below you. I say, well, directly up would be towards me, but so would up and left and up and right. Like those would all be towards.
I thought you were gonna be like, it's jumping in the 3rd dimension.
No. No, I'm just saying, okay, there's sort of, there's always pretty much 3 towards directions. And then I take those 3 directions and I shuffle them, and then I choose one, and I try it and see like, can I go in that direction? If I go in that direction, can I get there? And like, because it might be off the board or something, right? And then if I can get there, I check and say like, okay, is it a space or a player? Because if it's not a space or a player, I can't actually move there because it's a shaded block or it's a permanent block or it's another beast or something, right? And if all that works out, then I move that direction towards the player. But that's
What's
only
the destination
if I'm
square?
within 6.
How do you call the method is space and is player? What is destination square?
So the destination square here is, we take our destination coordinate, which we got the direction toward. So we loop through all the toward directions. What did we do? I should really comment this better. Stop popping up. Gotta turn off the hovers when I do this stuff.
So it picks a direction and then it says, what's the coordinate in that direction from the beast? And if that's a valid coordinate, then
right.
then
So I
it
take
goes
the
to
3
space.
directions, I
Say
shuffle
go
them
there.
up, so I'm iterating through them in a random direction, and then I try them in a random order to see, can I go this direction towards them and find a place that I can actually move? If it works, great. If not, it'll loop around and try the other possible directions towards them. The destination chord, we get it out of here to see if like, it's like it's taking that direction and turning it into a coordinate that starts where you are and is in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I just want to see like what's the data structure? Like what is it? Is
Oh,
that the
sorry,
thing
you
that's
just want to see what a chord looks like?
yes.
X and Y.
Well, no, because you're calling methods on it, so
Here's our chord.
okay.
Here's an X and a Y.
So this has like a
Yeah,
concept of what it is
random.
too.
And then in direction, we'll say like, okay, remember all that stuff we did?
Yeah.
I tried to make it so it's like not so tedious. Like here's the numbers you have to add. Okay, I'll just add them. I'll do checked stuff so I don't crash, you know, instead of like doing checked things a bajillion times. Anyway.
You handle the walls with nuns, right?
The border of the screen with nuns. The walls are actually, you check what do they call it? A player square or a game square or something like that. It's a logical thing that like contains a beast or a player or whatever and each of those structs, or is it, whatever it is, they basically just have a method that gives me the Unicode characters to display for them. And they're an enum so that I can also, enum or instruct, whatever they are, I can match on them and say, is it that or not, right? Got the distance to method, the direction towards method. I just tried to like abstract out all that awful math so that every time I needed to look at, you know, I have to move the beast, and so I have to be always looking at in some direction. I have to move the player, which is moving in some direction. So like abstracting that all into a coordinate struct made the other code a lot more readable.
So how well is it at like actually pathfinding towards you? Like if there's a wall right there, will it actually try to backtrack because
If
it might?
you're within 6, it will take one of those towards.
Yeah.
So like.
So
how does
if there's 3 blocks in front of it, it gets stuck though, right?
Right, and then it will set itself into wandering mode, where for a certain amount of time, for a timer amount of time, it literally just picks random directions and moves it again. Oh dang, we gotta set that ratio back. That's terrible. Where is that ratio? Anyone remember? It was over in the board setup, wasn't it? There it is. But if you just try it, say, okay, I'm pretty close, so he will move towards me.
Oh.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, there he goes.
That's a pretty wild AI.
And then they never move away from you if they're close enough, and there is some route to you. They don't, it's just random in the route they take, but it is towards you. And then if you get further away, they just wander. It's like they can't find you, so they just move it randomly.
Would that increase the speed of the beast as the levels increase?
Oh, he coming.
Yeah, that would be, I haven't gotten that far, but that's how the DOS game works, is the levels get higher, the beasts get faster, and there's more of them, and yeah, it just gets harder.
Wait, these are X-Wings and... What's happening?
You should try to implement the Pac-Man AI, where one of them is like tracking which way you're going, one of them's tracking you,
One that goes around.
one of them is triangulating the other two's, like, and one's going random, yeah.
I saw a documentary where a company would go, like these guys got together and they figured out how to hack them, like these arcade games, and they like add chips, so they like add levels and like add things to them.
That's cool.
They like solder on like these things at the time.
But yeah, it works.
Can we see the wander code?
Yeah.
Man, they are all right there.
Do you get more points if you squish a bunch of them? Wait, no, you can't do that.
Alright. Ah, wrong button. Wander.
68.
Alright.
By Dijkstra?
Actually,
Was it by
actually, it's
Trying to get this go.
3 different guys?
he has Dijkstra.
Alright, wander, else
Right,
we're
right.
wandering.
Oh, wow. even-
So we fall off the end here, and this is the actual wander. Okay, so
Wow.
it's like, okay, if we don't have
Interesting.
a place to move, then we take all the directions, we shuffle them, we start looping through all the random directions, and see if we can move somewhere. And we just check to see, okay, is it got a destination coordinate? Is it on the screen? And then, okay, check the square. Is the square a space or a player? Because that's the only things we can move on to. And then if it is, we move that direction. So it's literally pick a random direction, try to move that way. If I can't, keep going through all the rest of the random directions and move if I can. And then if you're completely surrounded or something, then he just sits there.
Yeah, so, and then are there levels to this? Like, the timer goes faster for the...
The DOS game has levels. In the DOS game, like, the numerical, I think, level increases like the speed and the number of enemies and stuff like that, and then the
Right.
letter changes all the settings in some way. It also has a mode where in the DOS game you can actually just go to the settings and set all the settings.
Right. Because that doesn't seem too crazy of a modification to add those like little variables, right?
No,
It's just like
totally be done.
you're just upping.
That's
you're
what
just-
every product manager says.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, that's like a couple lines, right?
Yeah.
Well, I talked to Dan Baker about it. I said, "Oh, which version did you get?" Because he like released a whole bunch of versions of it, and it was all this is before shareware had even been coined. This was in the all games are free. You just copy it.
there was like a disclaimer at the beginning that was like,
Yeah, it's a-
feel free to share this.
Yeah.
Please consider contributing
Mhm.
by sending money to this PO box.
Yeah. I asked him. He's like, I asked him, did you get money? He's like, yeah, a few people paid for it, not a whole lot.
Please send $20.
How to make the Oregon Trail.
See, like he said, like, well, yeah, one of these guys showed me how to make a pseudo-random number generator. One of these guys showed me how to send pulses to the speaker at different frequencies so I could make sounds. One of these guys showed me how to handle input from the terminal or something like that, or like the keyboard. And what I couldn't remember. But basically, each one of them like showed him some like fundamental combo of like how to do stuff, which is why I listed them on here. But Dan Baker's the one who wrote it all.
Dan Baker's in the forum?
Yep.
Do we know him?
You weren't here at the start, were you? I started by saying, yeah, Dan Baker worked at either WordPerfect or Novell, I can't remember which.
Oh, okay.
He's right at the start of his career back during this.
Oh my
He
gosh.
might have been an intern even. I don't remember, can't remember what he told me. But because he was that early in his career, he's still around, still working here in Lehi somewhere, or at least real close to it. I had lunch with him. I asked him about a whole bunch of questions about the game. I asked him, hey, can I recreate it for my students? He said, yeah, no problem. Do whatever you want. It's like, well, what if I like even made like a commercial version? He's like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. Like I just make, he's making games today still, and now he's doing them in JavaScript. He's like, yeah, I just like to tinker with games in my spare time.
And you're like, I know how that feels.
I do. Yeah. So, yeah, it was really cool. It was a really fun lunch. Yeah, I asked him like, would you want to do a podcast? He's like, no, I don't want to be like recorded. Well, what if I got you and the other guys together and we just like did a dinner or something sometime? Like, don't record it. Like, and ask you all about it. It's like, yeah, that'd be cool.
Did he get some of that like bazillion dollars when they sold WordPerfect, or was that?
Oh, back then, I'm guessing they did.
I've had one lunch with him. I don't know that well.
Back then, they were giving away options.
But yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. It'd be like, wow, this game that I played since I was 4 years old. Because my dad was a professor at BYU, and BYU, they were passing around all the same games that people at WordPerfect and Novell created, because they were tight, right? All the employees were students, or the professors were in and out of those corporations back then, and it's like, so they were all passing around games and things.
So Load Runner and
Load Runner?
I know that one.
Yeah.
What about
Is that
Load
not
Runner?
as famous as I think?
Yeah, it's super famous. They made Load Runner for like a bajillion platforms.
And then like Lemmings.
The original Lemmings.
I love the original Lemmings where you're like the guy's like building the bricks, like
Yeah.
putting them on.
I could never
Oh,
beat
yeah.
that stupid game.
It's possible.
They got so intense.
Oh my gosh.
Like
That
so
game is
intense.
so much fun.
Oh yeah, it got like twitchy intense. Like you had to like time the doing.
The end of time, you're like,
on the
okay,
right pixel.
You're like start building now, and then it starts like and he starts building.
Like no, like I just lost 20 minutes because I did them on the wrong pixel.
Yeah, and then they all the lemmings just die.
Yeah.
I played Lemmings as a kid, like before I could read. So
Yeah,
I
so
was
the
just
rest of
like,
us.
I was like, click this, and I didn't understand really, sort of. Like I kind of knew you have to get them to here, but
I think
It's
this is
just a
one
fun
of the generational
sandbox.
gaps. When I played Lemmings, you didn't click; it was all keyboard.
The keyboard, yeah.
But yeah, Lemmings was such a great game on.
You're right. it was.
The original Lemmings was all keyboard.
Well, it depends on. See, they did the original Lemmings on a whole bunch of different platforms. So
I think mine was.
Well, and they had like
I played it on
and then they had like
DOS,
3D.
but
I think I played it on 3.1.
I later saw it was like on was it on the Apple II? I don't know, it might not have been
Right.
but it was on like Commodore, it was on Amiga, it was on all sorts of stuff.
I mean, like Prince of Persia. Did you guys play that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Prince of Persia.
Did you guys watch the documentary for Prince of Persia for how they made it look so amazing?
Where
No.
they recorded a guy doing it.
They got a
Oh!
camcorder and he
And, like,
recorded
what?
his brother or something doing all the moves, and then he went frame by frame
That's so
through
crazy.
like a VHS or something and traced the outline on paper,
Oh my
on graph paper, and then used that to determine
Pixels.
the pixels for the anime. That's how they made such amazing little sprite animations of that guy
Yeah.
moving and stuff.
There's a lot of
It was
stuff
ahead
you
of
get
its
in
time.
old games, especially old console games.
Oh my god.
Like the original Nintendo, there are special effects that happen in games because the hardware has a single draw buffer, and it's being read
The
by
duck?
two.
The duck.
No, in the actual Nintendo, there's a processor that does all the CPU calculations, and then there's a processor that does all the draw stuff, and they're just kind of synced on clocks. And so the game logic writes to the draw buffer, and the other one reads the draw buffer. And it's designed to be output to a CRT TV at a specific frequency,
Yeah.
and so it knows how fast it reads. And by writing to the draw buffer as it's being read, you can get unintended effects in the game that were never designed to be drawn, and stuff like that.
Like on the new screens, as you were saying?
No, like if it's literally a shared memory buffer, and if you write to the parts that are being read as they're being drawn to the screen, it does weird things. Because when you have two CPUs that are just, you know the exact clock frequency of each one, you can time writing to specific addresses in memory. That's the kind of stuff they did on the original Nintendo.
So did they utilize that?
So Nintendo didn't realize that you could do that, but the developers figured it out and started doing it on purpose because it was predictable effects, just unintended effects.
Right.
And so once
there
they
were
figured out,
games
if
that
I
used
do it like this, then it will look like this on screen. That's how you got some of the more interesting game effects and special effects in the games, because they're literally writing to memory as it's being read to basically corrupt the drawing to do something special.
How does
Gotcha.
how do you interface that? Is that like
What do you mean?
like to input into the memory? Like how is it doing that?
It's writing to your basically RAM. It's just a
Yeah,
memory buffer.
just
It's literally just a
You have a
shared
pointer.
block of memory.
dereference the pointer right
Yeah,
to it.
There's nothing, yeah, it's just right to that block of memory.
You know how
Nothing
Rust
direct.
tries really hard to prevent you from doing this kind of thing?
Yeah, Rust is all about not doing this, but if you do this kind of stuff.
This would be in an unsafe
with the
block.
Correct hardware, you can do really cool stuff.
Some people really like undefined behavior. They do it on
Yeah.
purpose.
Like unsafe only takes off like
Figure out how to upload
a handful of
it to
restrictions.
handling
Really?
slot
Yeah.
machine here.
Yeah, go read the Rust novel
So-
about unsafe. and
So
it's
what's
like-
something what gets to the limit of unsafe? Like
You still can't share memory buffers usually, if I remember it. That's why a lot of codecs still do stuff in C because.
Like
they're
the
using
lifetimes
C++.
are still there, and like you can't use something that's after its lifetime's gone away and stuff like that. So there's a lot of Rust that is still there in unsafe. Most of Rust is still there and even unsafe. It just unlocks a couple things. Raw pointers, you can use them, right? And some of
Anything involving
a couple
CFI.
things like that that are very powerful, and you can do a lot of bad things with them. Enable seg faults for sure, but like there's still a lot. You're still in Rust, right? And
Right.
you still get a lot of the protections even in unsafe code. In fact, there's been I've seen a lot of discussion over the years about how, man, we should have called it something else because it's been used as this weapon by, ironically, completely unsafe languages and the communities around them to say like, oh, well, look, Rust is unsafe too. It's got this unsafe keyword. It's terrible. But it's just like,
Well, it's bad.
if
even
that's
in
terrible,
the
your
community.
whole language is unsafe.
But it's also
Under
bad
that
inside the community
definition.
because people who use it to bully libraries. Oh, you have unsafe code in your library, and it's like.
Yeah. Exactly. It's
Just
exactly that kind of
saying that
stuff.
doesn't mean anything unless you can
That kind of
quantify
stuff where-
what you're doing that's bad.
There's been a lot of discussion about like, we should have named it something else that wasn't so like had these terrible
Judgmental.
judgmental
my
connotations.
favorite explanation of unsafe is that instead of the compiler signing off on a piece of code, the programmer is signing off on a piece of code.
And that really is why it is unsafe.
Unchecked would probably
It's like
be better,
like the
but-
compiler's like, okay, I can't help you here. I can't make the guarantees I usually do.
You're depending
So
on
it's
the
up to
computer
you, my friend.
to make all the guarantees.
Yeah.
I think it should just be one long identifier that is, here's why this is safe, and then like open parentheses, and you have to put a comment in there of why this is safe.
And then you need a hash of several developers.
There's actually a
Without
link.
you just write it's not and keep going.
There is a link you can enable that will give you a warning or an error depending on how you enable it if you don't have if you don't have a safety comment by your unsafe blocks. So
It should just be built into the compiler,
well,
not like a
kind
link.
of is. It's just not enabled by default.
Which I kind of get because especially if you're doing anything with like FFI, you're required to wrap it in an unsafe block because you're crossing the C memory boundary. And having to put a safety comment on every single unsafe block or function
get really
because I'm doing
tricky.
FFI would drive me nuts.
Wait, is there a way not to do that?
Not to do what?
Yeah,
Like if you have a bunch of
disable the
C.
lint. You just have like a allow.
Yeah, if there's a
unsave
lint
or
that
whatever.
requires a safety comment, you can disable it for a file or whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't
Oh,
want that if I'm
really?
doing FFI.
Yeah,
You can do that? You can disable it for a whole.
files. You can disable lints.
Wait, or we're talking about lints.
for the next
We're not
item.
talking about just like unsafe blocks.
We're talking about lints.
Just lints.
So the lint he was talking about was that
I
if you
see.
do an unsafe block, it requires a comment,
Right.
called a
Okay.
safety comment, explaining why you're doing unsafe. And I was saying, in FFI code, everything is unsafe because you're crossing into C,
Right.
and that would just be untenable. So at the very least, you turn it off in all of those files.
I thought you were saying it was a way to just say the whole file is unsafe.
By the way, did you all hear about the new lints section support in Cargo.toml?
Yes.
Finally!
So good.
Finally! So you can just like specify like all the lints you want, like global for your project,
Yeah.
in the lints section in Cargo, instead of like, oh, I want this lint on my whole project, I'm gonna have to go enable it in every single file. Every file.
Why did it take 6 years for that?
Well, someone had to do it.
In I came from Dart
It's
background.
'cause you
They had a
Clearly
you
they
could
didn't
like
let the
download
important people
files
enough.
that would have like pre-configured lints. So say like you could go to Google's lints, like they would give you like what they recommend in the company as their lints.
Right, right.
Eventually we're gonna get that where you can just like cargo install Google lints.
If people want it, I'm sure someone will make it.
That'll be cool.
But
Now
I
you
mean,
just
I find
specify
the
it.
default lint level's pretty darn nice. I
Yeah.
hardly ever customize the lints. Although doing the reporting, I did those release videos for every release, and I've started to like think there's a bunch of the lints that are added that are allowed by default. So you'll only ever see them if you go and turn them on. And I've started to think maybe I should turn some of these on. They're kind of cool.
I actually have in my
Plus Clippy.
Why the heck did they name it Clippy of all things? There are those of us who are still old enough for that to be a swear word on
It
it.
was supposed
most
to be
helpful-
ironic.
That's exactly why.
The most
Yeah, why would
helpful.
you
Because they knew you're gonna swear to lints anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, but the lints are at least useful.
It's funny because I had that same reaction when I first saw it, and now whenever I hear Clippy, I think Rust Clippy. Now I'm like, oh, Clippy, I love Clippy.
Right.
That's like Microsoft paid him a lot of money to like.
I mean, I don't know that Microsoft wants anybody to remember Clippy either.
It's just like,
They're trying to get the PR Clippy.
I could never figure out what Microsoft was trying back in the late 90s. It's like, what were you
There-
doing?
AI.
Why did you
There is a
make
there is a
this?
documentary short about that.
I know.
It's kind of fun.
I actually watched it and I still don't understand.
What's that thing that Windows made, the Bob?
Yeah, Microsoft Bob. They tried to make it. It's like, we're going to make everything skeuomorphic.
Yeah, everything's
We'll make the
skeuomorphic.
whole desktop an animated representation of an actual cartoon office and a person, or was it Microsoft Bob, a dog or something? And like that was gonna help somehow. And it's just like,
It was an idea.
I mean, it's basically the
I never
Microsoft
met
equivalent of the
anyone
touch
who was
bar.
like understood it. Like, why would I want that?
I mean, skeuomorphism.
The mouse that you charge on.
Skeuomorphism.
Apple
was
used to
just-
do it a lot.
Apple was very skeuomorphic for a while.
Sure, but they were skeuomorphic in
Like this guy did.
look and feel.
Yeah.
Somebody flipped it over and stuck a little
Look,
flag in the
texture,
charging
like
port
a-
and labeled it
like a
the HMS
desk
Courage.
Like, I get that.
Because that was the, that was
Gonna
the.
make something look like
Apple
wood.
forever. Oh,
I
they have
get
the
that,
courage
or
to
like
do
that
things
with
that
the
people
courage.
don't.
I just don't blame them for at the
Because
time
they have the
thinking
head
like,
project,
hey,
so
let's
they
go
flip
all
mouses
in,
and it's the HMS Courage.
right? Because who knew, right? What
Well,
people
that was
would
all
want.
new. I mean, you gotta remember, when I was growing up, for the
Mac
first decade
keyboard,
of my life,
I
most
can't-
computers
I just
had
hate it.
one color
Do
or
you have the
four
butterfly
colors.
keyboard still?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had Macs at home.
And
I
then
don't use. I use systems. like this.
EGA, 16 colors.
They switched to a
And then
custom keyboard
VGA,
for
that was a big deal.
Really
VGA, man, you wanted games with VGA because it was 256
I thought they-
colors.
That's a lot of color.
That's a lot of colors.
A year or two ago.
Right? And then they got to this millions of colors. And it was like, what?
All of that same era, they had
It
a bunch
looks
of
like
things
a-
that basically.
It was like
It
they got
looks
out of
like a
Johnny Ive,
picture.
and then.
It was a big deal.
Johnny Ive's not still there, is he?
Just having more.
I don't think he's full-time anymore, he's basically like this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's when the skeuomorphic came about. It was
Right.
like, wow, we can represent things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's use these colors. And it was super impressive because we'd had computers for
Yeah,
decades
the
that
new
no one
MacBooks
would make
are
things that
amazing,
looked
like
like real
styles,
stuff
like
because there
pictures,
wasn't
like
enough
the
colors, there
weighted
wasn't enough
corners,
memory,
like
there wasn't
traditional,
enough
like,
processing power. So it was awesome. It was cool. People loved it.
It's interesting because
They made it
skeuomorphism
That's what I like.
usually
They made
like
it bigger.
people grow out of it because they get used to the language of the user interface.
Yeah.
But like, there are members of Gen Z today who don't know how to use computers with mouse and keyboard because they just haven't used them.
What?
Like they don't know that.
they
They
use,
don't know
like,
that UI
iPad.
language anymore.
Yeah, it's really funny to watch people try to swipe on a CRT.
Like-
CRT. Where do they get a CRT? You mean on a monitor?
That's how you make your hair stand up, isn't it? You suck all the static off the screen.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, right.
Or they don't
Hey, look,
file
Mom, my
manager,
hair's
because
all
until
Right.
like 2018, iPhone
Get away
In
from
today's
there.
episode
Files.
of Old
Yeah, there's no
Nerd
files. You don't know what a directory
I remember
is.
that, like,
Yeah,
in
I mean,
grad
it has
school,
it now.
Like, it was like this for album, and then it's like, oh yeah, we could actually just do it like this. Like, why did you not like just do that before? Like, that's so much easier.
You show a Zoomer a floppy disk and they say, "Wow, you 3D printed the save button."
What's a Zoomer?
You know,
Gen
like,
Z. It's a member of Gen Z.
Oh, okay.
You have boomers and then you have Zoom.
I also like all the people who are like, but it's not floppy.
Full circle.
But it's not floppy. Yeah. What do you mean?
But all of us are old enough to remember the bigger ones that were like, yeah.
The thing that strikes me as funny is you know how hairstyles are cyclical?
Yeah.
Like,
All it's back.
my kids' friends have got mullets and long hair. I'm like,
No way.
that was what my dad's generation wore. Like, that doesn't look cool to me at all.
Because you grew up in the time when it was uncool.
Pictures of those people and be like,
But
yeah,
I
you
just
look bad then. I'm probably gonna look bad in a few years.
It's like you guys, long hair is always rotates right out of style. Everyone regrets the long hair pictures. I got like all my uncles and like my uncles got these wedding pictures where they got these long hair like in the 70s, right? Long hair and these handlebar mustaches and the rest of their life they never did that. And I'm looking at these kids now and I'm just like.
It's gonna happen again.
I mean, we probably feel the same way that their parents felt in the 70s. So like, yep, you're gonna
Seriously.
regret this.
Like all those old movies where the parents are complaining that the kids need a haircut, like, it's literally me now. Like, I literally told my daughter, she had a boyfriend, I'm like, he needs a haircut.
But if you look at
That
some
looks
of the
ridiculous.
hairstyles of today, they're somewhat similar to like, the early 1900s, and you go back even further, like, look at like early photography up to like the 1920s. Very similar styles, hairstyles, etc. Towards
Really?
very
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, we're still streaming, but we're just sort of chatting.
Okay.
We're talking about
Do you want me to stop streaming? Are you gonna say something zig catastrophic?
Yeah, I'm gonna say something ziguanastic.
Ooh, zigmanastic.
Yeah, ziguanastic.
All right, go ahead, Ziguan.
So I'm gonna do an intro to Zig presentation next month.
Ooh.
If anybody's interested
You're
in
getting
that.
real aggressive about poaching now.
Well, so no, I looked at your upcoming meetups to make sure that we weren't like in conflict, and I actually thought that you were gonna be doing the game next month because it showed it's upcoming, and normally when the clock ticks, it switches over to past events, but it didn't.
Huh. Weird.
Anyway,
Maybe it's because I don't have a next event yet.
maybe that's what it is. Anyway, so yes, I was polite and I wanted to look and see and try to coordinate to make sure that if you were doing an intro to Rust, I wasn't gonna do an intro to Zig. But yeah, we're
Are
gonna
you
do
a
it.
shark or a jet?
Should we do an intro to Rust next month?
Every month is intro to
And
Rust.
next month is intro to Rust.
Anyway,
Do whatever you want, DJ. It's fine.
I don't know if it's relevant. So I run AWS Utah. You guys can come make an announcement over there if you guys want to as well. So,
Oh, yeah. So when
kind
does
of
AWS
cross-pollinate.
Utah meet?
We usually do the second Wednesday of each month at Entrada, but
So that's
We
the
had a
day
complication.
before us, because we're the second Thursday of each month.
so
that was
anyway,
yesterday?
we switched it. So it was gonna be on the 13th because of Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway,
Some of us need a place to go on Valentine's Day.
yes, it's a good place to. And so we switched it to the 21st instead, but it's a hackathon. So AWS hackathon, there's prizes, but if you guys want to
Ooh,
announce it as
prizes.
well,
Cool.
you're.
So how do you pick from the 100 things that Amazon makes that?
You think it's only 100?
What?
Like,
Yeah, it's whatever people want
How
to learn
long
about.
is it?
never, never ending. Like, so they added 55 things into my.
Oh yeah, it's a fun of stuff.
Show me the demo.
You want to see the
It's like
actual,
if
like,
Google never got.
we
rid of
didn't actually
something,
get
that
this
would be-
far, I switched over to the, okay, I wrote this
The bigger
beforehand.
difference is that AWS products are actually
this is-
useful and driven by
Have you ever
people
seen
using them,
the
whereas Google's products are driven by
I'll show you
somebody
the
internally
original.
thought.
And when they get bored with it, it dies.
Right?
And there's like certain products that you always use, like, you're always gonna use like.
So here's what we're
like
at.
compare
Like,
user
like,
behavior.
yeah,
This whole document.
You're not.
It just,
It just depends really what you're using. Like Lambda's like used on like everyone uses
Like,
it.
oh my
It's
God,
I
like-
think I played this on a
it just
dog.
depends.
Oh, yeah, you could have.
And so
I know
like,
it was called
if you'll do
so
big
many-
ones-
It's probably something similar. Because this
very,
is,
very
this
narrow
is,
application.
this
that
guy
are
wrote
really
it in
for
assembly for
Yeah,
DOS.
and so it's
As
like,
far as I know,
if
he
you
recorded
know,
it to anything.
I don't know.
I actually met
it's like,
with him.
hey,
I
someone
had
wants to
lunch
show a
with him,
project, like,
asked him all about it, got permission to like restate it and stuff for my course.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, if you
For
want
any
to post
purpose,
it or.
Well, we should do whatever you want, make it, sell it, whatever.
So for this course,
Yeah.
what will you be teaching?
Yes!
For this course, what are you gonna be teaching? Like
Okay,
on top of
so
that?
this is, I'm
And I return
updating
the state of the game
Ultimate
back
Rust
to the
Crash
game so
Course,
they can render
and I'm
what
replacing the
It sounds
invasive
expensive, but
They did a
this
good
way
job
you
with
can
the
put
sound.
100
Okay.
million
The
people
sound
concur.
are-
Why are you replacing it?
Yeah.
He's gonna show them.
Nathan, why are you replacing it? Why are you replacing it?
So
Yeah, that's what it is,
Invaders,
like,
I
I wanna get
made
more
it
people like, hey, showcase what you're building
for
over
a
here.
conference session, for a make a game in 45 minutes, and I literally did the whole game in 45 minutes. In a conference session, and then I just like repackaged it and
Same.
tacked it on the end
So
of
that's
my
why it's more
crash
like
course,
passion
after I
projects or
published my
something like
crash
that.
course for like a
So.
year or something, just as like, oh, this will be an extra bonus.
Yeah, I just say.
But it wasn't
I say
anything for it.
how I
So
solve
it
these
uses
problems.
threads,
Like,
Oh.
it's something
and
you could
channels,
just find online
and like,
anyway.
I don't, like, I ran through it so fast that like, I auto import a bunch of stuff and I don't show them the use statements, and like, it's just too much.
Right.
Like, the
Just ask
most
student
common
co-pilot
negative
wrote
feedback I
all
get about the crash course
So
is,
pilot saves you.
like,
a ton
the
of
whole
time.
crash course was great,
It's
but
like, oh,
invaders, I just,
okay.
I couldn't follow
Oh.
along.
it's not
And
good.
so I'm like, okay, I'll just make a purpose-built, I'm doing this for it, I'll only do things that I taught in the course.
Mm-hmm.
I won't use threads and channels or whatever, and I'll make sure that I take it at a nice slower pace so that people can follow.
What were you
So
doing
that's
with
why.
threads?
What's
What
that?
were you doing with threads in that game?
Just for fun, I put the renders.
Okay.
Just to show like, wow, look how easy it is to use threads
Yeah, yeah.
in Rust for the conference presentation.
And this one you're just trying to keep as minimal as possible.
It's like, exactly, I'm gonna tone it down, although, to be honest, it's ending up with way more logic than I need for a project for my crash course.
We're actually connected.
So, I don't know, I gotta figure it all out. Oh, AJ, you wanted to see, this is the, I wrote it version.
Okay.
Do the sound.
Do the
Oh,
sound.
Make sure you die.
Okay, I gotta squish him, squish him. Ah, crap. Squish this one then. Blink. Ah,
But
there you go. Ah, you get me.
Did you get professional voice actors?
I did.
He paid him too.
Paid him a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really go for a high budget.
Same one that went pew.
That's the one! Crap.
Is there no limit on the amount of blocks that you can push as long as it doesn't hit a solid wall?
Correct. If you hit a solid wall or a beast that doesn't have something behind him,
Uh-huh.
it just stops.
Gotcha.
Like, I can't push it. Oh.
And then he moves.
No,
He just like
I
sidestepped it.
didn't play this on Atari, but I think I've played something like this before.
It's kind of like
Did you have
Sokoban.
Windows 95?
What?
It's kind of like Sokoban.
Yeah.
I didn't play that one. I don't think.
AJ, did you have Windows 95?
Yes.
Because they had a version similar to this with a cat and mice and sheep.
Hey, you did it.
And look, I
That
added
rings
an
a bell.
emoji. That was
Wow.
not an original.
That rings a bell.
Oh.
Okay. Number?
So there's no game states or like restart or anything?
What's that?
There's no game states like restart?
1-0.
I did.
Cool.
I did restart.
Never know what you did.
Does that just
Wow.
go back to like the main loop or
It just
whatever?
starts.
There's an AWS.
AWS Utah, so
This
if you wanna
is
come
an
and just like
Advantage
announce
360.
it and everything to some people, like try to gather more, you know,
I tried
I
to
feel like
remind
ever since
her.
COVID,
It was too planar and it was too
kind of
straight.
events and before COVID is,
I need this scooping, so.
Scoop.
anyway, it's a little tricky.
I'm looking at a golf 80. Golf 80?
This one's
sorry,
the 21st,
Love
but
80.
that haven't changed.
It's like that, but just a little bit more. It's better for smaller.
How'd the arena's presentation go?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, great.
Or allocator tank.
Yeah, you should.
Is it-
You should watch it.
Yeah, can I, is it on the, is there a recording
is.
up? I haven't actually looked.
Go to the YouTube, and then, or you could even go to the Discord.
Oh, yeah.
They posted it there. If you go to the YouTube, it's in the live streams
I really
section.
liked this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This was
Let
great.
me-
You should go watch it.
I will,
Such a
because I've
wonderful
been.
presentation.
Oh,
I want to
thank
know
you.
about
Yeah.
arena
Thank you.
allocators.
Tell me them again.
And I was like, dang, I
Can't
wish that I.
Excuse
Yours
me,
is-
at least 5 times.
At the same time.
Nathan,
Anyway.
right.
Got to
Yeah.
go
Nice.
see Zig.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So,
I will go see.
yeah,
I will
it's
go.
fun.
I will go watch
So
it.
I need to-
Actually,
I
I'm
need
curious
to
about it.
knuckle down and
Let's see.
put this into a
Where is
lesson
it?
format and get it into the updated crash course.
Not bad at all.
By the
Is your
way,
ultimate course getting updated still?
yeah, this is the part I haven't finished. I finished the whole course update, but not this. And everyone complains about invaders not matching the course. And so like this is the part they actually want. I updated everything but the thing that they actually want different. So I gotta.
Well, I still have my ultimate course from when I helped you do the experimentation, but I haven't sat down and actually gone through it. So I was
What?
just checking to see if it was
What?
I haven't actually coded anything in Rust in like a year and a half.
Speaking of, if anybody who attends here wants a free access to my crash course, just let me know.
Let's see.
I'll just need your email address and I'll give you access. You go through it. It's really good.
What's the most advanced topic you get to?
In the crash course, enums, matching, struts, traits, ownership.
Cool.
It's just all sort of, it's pretty basic, but you know, the whole point of the crash course is that Rust has a really steep learning curve. Like you have to understand enough to be able to do anything. Like it's really frustrating the first couple hours of Rust, right? You're like, why the crap won't let me do anything? It's like nothing's mutable, and like when I make it mutable, and like it still yells at me for some reason. Like what the heck's going on? And the crash course is like to get you up that curve so that you can then learn Rust way easier. And then I've got an intermediate course that like takes you through all the like meat and potatoes. And then I'm going to be making more courses this year.
Here it is.
I'm trying to make it a real job, but I got to learn how to advertise.
And you gotta have the rest of life stop interfering, right?
No freaking kidding. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was an understatement. But yeah, but now I've got half my time half my days where I'm going to be alone, so I'll have more time.
What's the next talk going to be, or do we not have an idea?
Oh, speaking of, who wants to present next month?
Oh.
Already did. Well, hey, you don't have to present for 2 hours. You can present for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be professional. Like, I should have been way more prepared for today, but, you know, life happened. I didn't make it to being more prepared. So we did what we did, and we still had fun, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's a low stress opportunity. It's great for, if you do the presentation, it's great to refer to on resumes, job applications, stuff like that, or if you're trying to get internships, like this is a nice thing to be able to point to and be like, look, I gave this presentation. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, they'll look at it and be like super impressed and not
They'll look to
watch.
see that it exists.
They'll look, exactly.
Watch
They
it.
will look at it, they will never press play.
If it's a 2-hour stream, there's no way they're
Let me
gonna
tell
actually
you
sit through it unless it's something they're
A
really
hiring
interested in.
manager will never sit through a 2-hour stream. I'll tell you what, I was lucky if I skimmed all the headings in your resume.
So what you're saying is I don't really need to give a presentation at all. I just can upload a 2-hour-long video with nothing.
Well, you have to be on the right YouTube
I
channel.
won't label the video with your name unless you do it.
Well, I already did one in November anyway.
It's true, and it was awesome.
Thanks.
And it wasn't that scary, was it?
No, it was fun.
See?
I had a good
I'm trying to
time.
remember, did we ever actually have one on Tari? Remember there was one that was
I don't
planned, but I don't
think
think
we
it ever
did.
actually went off, did it?
I don't think we did have a Atari one. I tell you what, if nobody else presents, I'm going to start just doing Bevy tutorials for a few months.
That's
I'm just going to be
awesome.
like, okay, here's
The
the
other
first
major
section of
project.
Bevy, and then we'll do it again, and I'll be just like, okay, well, no one's going to present again. I will do more, and this time we won't have to waste time on what is Bevy and what's an ECS. We can just go further.
If you start doing that, I'll do one on, like there's a yarn spinner format thing, which I've
What's
been
that?
looking at. Yarn spinner. So it's like for dialogue systems and games,
Ooh.
which I've been like heavily like investing some time into. But I'll do that only if you go full bet.
Only
Only
in
for
a-
full
Ah.
Yeah, because otherwise it's mostly unusable, like outside of that ecosystem.
You have to know a little bit of Bevy first, is what you're saying.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Oh, deal. Deal. I will definitely do a Vivint presentation, although I would prefer if someone else would present next month. So any takers? Gotta look at people's eyes, make them uncomfortable.
Neither of my Rust projects have
Help
seen
me
any
apply for
traction in
jobs.
months, so nothing to present.
Haven't landed a job.
But when they get there, I'll happily present.
I'll keep crawling in Discord for a week or two before I commit.
How do we find that Discord? I haven't found it.
What?
You just ask for an invite.
Go to utah.rs or just someone invite
Wait,
him.
do you have a Discord?
What's his Discord
Yeah.
I
name?
can invite you here.
Yeah, just invite him.
Just at Rex.
Well, there's like a utah.rs website and it's got a link to the Discord on it.
How many freaking Discords are you in?
I
Rex, what?
think
Rex
the
Limon,
invite
R-E-X.
is only
That's just
Steve.
funny.
Does
I have
just
to-
one have a link
Yeah.
to the Discord?
I have to like leave.
I think I left my phone in the car.
It's
So
not-
I'll just have to
Sure.
text it.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was
Oh,
just joining.
I sent it to Rex.
I joined them.
Thanks so much.
Actually,
And you accept that.
How many
All right, I'm shutting off this. Oh my gosh, it's
do
after
you
9.
actually recognize?
We're all done. Bye, everybody.
Because for me, I'm like, I want to go to a Discord and I remember what it's called, but I cannot for the life of me remember what the